rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is returning. She's been on a few times, so we got something interesting to talk today. Her name is Patti Grover, and as you noticed, she also does a show. So we've kind of been trading back and forth. We got a lot of fun, interesting things going, and we're going to talk about life in the fast lane and what's going on, with everything in 2020. So, Patti, tell everyone where you're calling in from and what your specialties are, and we'll go from there.
Hey, I am in Maine, and it is a little bit chilly right now. They're past their peak at this point. We've had snowflakes falling and gearing up for those cold winter nights. I am the goal achievement strategist, and I am all about trying to help people know that in my show with the Patricia Jo Grover show, that I let people know they're worthy and they're capable and they're not in this alone. So and I could say conquering skills education, I help people to determine and really dig down and find out who they are, what they want, because we have to know where we're starting from to be able to get to where we want to be. And some people have a hard time allowing themselves to dream. And so that's why originally, Beverly, I got involved with you with virtual reality things, because the fact that helps me. I use virtual reality as a tool to work with clients to help them to be able to, when they close their eyes, they can see it. They can feel it, not just physically, but emotionally.
Right.
You can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can touch it. That whole thing of when you are that dream and being able to achieve it. Because if you can take your purpose and your why and connect it with those, and I teach the sensory vision, if you can put all those things together, it makes you unstoppable.
And that's really relevant to what you're saying there, and it's finding out who you really are. And when you look at everything that has gone on in 2020, where we've been just kind of like really forced to almost look what's going on inside, because we've had this extra time where we've been being busy, that all of a sudden we were brought to a halt. So it is an opportunity to really start looking inward to see what's going on, what makes me tick, what makes me, right? Exactly. And so when we look at all that stuff, and sometimes it's uncomfortable because we're looking at things that we don't like about ourselves, right? And that's okay. It's to recognize those things. And when we look at the opportunities that have opened in 2020, my gosh, we've had to get resourceful, we've had to get resilient, we've had to really step out of our box, right? And it wasn't just step out of the box. It was like the box was totally exploded, right?
It's learning to live outside the box, and that's the title of my book, is Living Outside the Box.
Yeah, let me bring that book up. There it is. Yeah, Living Outside the Box. And again, sometimes we don't perceive being in a box. Well, if you're not in a box, okay, where are you? And again, it's realizing that it's not so much as being in the box, it's where our predictability is, our comfort zone, right? It's what we do habitually every single day. And then all of a sudden, along comes 2020 and COVID, and voila, everything was just kind of brought to a halt, right? We were pushed into lockdown. And, your routines were like totally upside down. Not only your routine, but everyone in the household. That's a lot. And so you look at the stress that's taken place, and It's like, you got kids. Well, how come we can't go to the park? How come we can't do this? How come? It's like, what the heck is going on? And we want to talk a little bit about mindset, because the mindset is where the power really lies. Not being able to move into that daily routine thing. We've had to learn how to make our daily routines different and productive rather than destructive, because we're all in this little space we call our home, right? And you're there 24/7. Like, wow, okay, what do we do? There's only so many card games you can play. There's only so many TV shows you can watch. There's, right? So getting resourceful. So Patti, how has that impacted your life? Because I know you're, not only do you have, several businesses, but you have grandkids that you've been responsible for, throughout different days of the week. How has that upset your apple cart?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me kind of go back a little bit, is because tips I've shared with clients and friends is that, because now everybody, I mean, I was working from home and meeting clients, just like on Zoom and stuff, because, for travel, I was working with people throughout the United States anyway.
Right.
But because of COVID, it has limited travel that much more. So people weren't getting up and getting out of the house. So, but it was important for our mindset is, if we're getting ready for work, get ready for work, get dressed just like you were getting dressed to do your commute and go to work, and doing that, because if you don't do that, it keeps you in that mental state that draws you down. So
Right.
getting ready. So so continuing to do that. And again, everybody knows on Zooms, you're like, oh, well, you're only dressed from from the waist up, or whatever the case may be. But believe me, I am still dressed below. Um, but
that is so true in so many
yeah,
cases, and
yeah,
it's got to be kind of a humorous thing, which in a way is
yeah,
good because we need that humor anyway,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But with because of everything going on too, with the limitations of, like, I have one grandson that the school currently right now is open 5 days a week. And then I have another grandson he only goes to school physically 2 days a week. And then the other three, he has to do it, from home. And then I also, with that one grandson that only goes 2 days a week, he has a little baby sister who's 6 months old. So I have those 2 days a week. So that has me trying to cram everything into my other 3 work days, So
Right.
it's planning and calendaring and scheduling, and good thing that's a big part of what I do and help people to be able to do, and it is about prioritizing and synchronizing how everything's going to fit in, um, because if we try to put too much on our own plates, and I share this, if we do, what ends up happening is sabotage. It's self-sabotage, that, if we don't keep things under control, because that's the only way we can do it, is
Right.
is is that prioritization and synchronization of what needs to happen and what steps to be able to get you to where you want to be.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And then it's so true, getting those routines and then having to shuffle all those routines. And that really is kind of a key element too, like what you say, get up, get dressed as if you were going to work, because you are. You're just not, you're going into a different office, and it might just be to a different spot in your bedroom or in your living room or wherever the case may
or
be,
or
right?
or in my case, the days that I have my kids, or the grandkids, you know my getting ready for work doesn't mean makeup and hair or whatever. It means a ponytail and clothes that I can get down on the floor and wrestle and play with them, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's getting them ready for work that day. But it
Yeah.
is all in, for me, that is a priority to me, to be being a Grammy and being there for the children. that's a
Well,
priority.
they just grow up way, way, way too fast. It's just, it's like it's the time. I mean, time has been speeded up, but I'll tell you, for me, it seems like since October started, that it's just like blink and it's gone. I mean, we're getting ready to move into the second week of November already, and it's like, wait a minute, it just started yesterday. How can it be already coming up on today's the 6th? So
Yeah.
it's like, wow, life is just moving by so fast. And
Right.
again, the more involved you get with things and stuff that you have going on, that of course speeds it up as well. And I like what you said about putting too much on your plate, because we have a tendency, especially now, it's like, oh gosh, I got to find something to do. I got to find something to do. So you start saying yes to everything, and then all of a sudden you start looking at your calendar and you're saying, oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
can't.
what was I thinking here?
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly,
Oh
exactly.
my goodness.
Oh, and so that's why, and you and I have chatted, and I've said, we need to put 2020 in the rearview mirror, and we need to focus on the future, and that's what I'm all
Right.
about. Focus on our future, and to make 2021 great, and we
Right.
can do that.
Right. And it's going to be interesting. It's like,
Well, but it will be interesting, but if we plan for it, and you know how I am, I'm all about planning and setting together and setting those smarter plans,
right.
and so, but you notice how I said smarter rather than just smart, because they have to be, the E and the R, they have to be editable and revisable, because we know life happens to every single
Oh, I
one of
like
us, whether we're
that.
ready for
Say
it or
that
not.
again. That was good. Say that again.
We have the plans have to be editable and revisable, because life happens to every single one of us, whether we're ready for it or not.
Right.
So
Right.
you
That's
have to, and all that, I'll go a little bit deeper, is because planning for me has to do with also putting your planning days into your calendar and scheduling. So
right.
your weekly planning, your monthly, your quarterly, your yearly, but how to keep on track with things so that we're not self-sabotaging and we get too far off the rails is once a week. And my planning day is Sunday, and I take a look and I take everything that happened last week, I review it. You've got to
Right.
look at your measurables, whether it be your budgets, and I tell everybody, budget your time, budget your money, and budget your energy.
Wow,
And
say that again, because that's really relevant, because a lot of people think, when you say budget, it just has to do with finances, and it's way
no,
more than that.
right, it's budgeting your time,
Right.
budgeting your money, and budgeting your energy. And so that goes into when I talking about um, prioritizing things. With prioritization, I go A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay.
A, absolutely have to do.
Okay.
B, it has to be done. C, you just got to do it. D is delegate,
That's a key one.
and
That's a key.
E is eliminate, can be eliminated. Okay, so that's
Right.
your A, B, C, D, and E. So then, with all of those, then you have your one, two, threes, your synchronization. What order do those things have to happen in order for everything to
Okay.
get done? I know it seems like a lot of steps in here, and this is something. You heard of it, Dwayne Dyer?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I
everybody
love
knows
Wayne
Dwayne.
Dyer. Oh
Okay, okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay. So, but he says, it's never crowded along the final mile. That last mile, it's not crowded along that mile when you want to be successful.
Right.
The thing is, people are thinking it's when you're up here, that mile, those people that are flying high, the top of their game, the high achievers. What it is, and I'm a goal achievement strategist, so I've done lots of research on this. Where that extra mile is it's in the planning has to happen beforehand, and all that when you put that extra mile in
Right.
in the planning part of it, that's where your goal achievement's going to happen, is to have everything lined up and in place, and learn those habits to be able
Yeah,
to
and
follow
that's part
through.
of that whole transformation. We talk about the mindset, right? and then that transformation takes place. So that makes, perfectly good sense. Like you say, it sounds complicated, but really in essence it's not.
It's so
Yeah,
simple. That's the
because your
thing. It's so
ABCs and your 1, 2, 3s are kind of like merged together, right? So you
right.
got your priorities and your have to do's, and you got your priorities, the should to do's, and you got your priorities, right? And a lot of times we kind of go and we want to start at the E, right? And say, oh, we just got so busy doing this, and so it's an excuse, right? And that goes into that self-sabotaging.
Right.
Right? So,
Right.
where does that come from, and how do you recognize what that is, and start really putting things into balance? And when you can do that and focus on that, now you're bringing things together, and it really isn't that difficult. It's really not that complicated.
Right.
Things are simple. They may not always be easy, but they are simple. And so when you break that apart and you say, okay, I want to be serious about what's going on in my life. I want to be serious. I want to take my business serious, even though I, am not able to go into my office, or I lost my job because they closed down. It's like, what can we do for the self, right? So where are you? And it's finding that identity. So what we're doing together, with this mindset course, is really starting to understand and putting those pieces together, like what you said, and really dig deep into how you can put those steps together in the simplest, fastest, easiest way to get that big aha moment, right? And then here Beverly comes along and says, okay, let's make that even quicker and easier by finding out who you really are. Because I work in that identity revelation, let's reveal who you really are. And when you can understand the old programming, the old self-sabotaging, the old database of information of, well, I used to do it this way. Well, the used to do's are really gone. 2020, like you said, is in the rearview mirror. 2020 is hindsight. Let's definitely make 2020 behind us, because we can't change what that past is. We can only focus on what the now is and where we're going. So if you want to go for a ride and have a good ride, learn resourcefulness, and get that key element to really start looking at your achievements and your goals and your directions from a different perspective. And it really isn't complicated, because what Patti's doing here, it is really simplifying things to understand what those steps are and the importance. And again, we talk about systems, right? So this is a system. Systems work, people don't. Right. Systems work, people don't. So when you understand what that system is and you begin to make it relevant in your life, and you begin to start putting those steps one by one foot in front of the other. Don't skip it. It's like running up a set of stairs, right? And you try to take 3 steps instead of 1 at a time. What happens? Whoa, you miss that step. What do? Whoop, you're right down at the bottom, right? So you have to look at your goals. You have to look at things that you're looking to accomplish in life. But again, what is behind you? What are you leaving behind you? It's that old database that likes to run, on autopilot, that we need to just get rid of, to remove the fuel that's energizing them by eliminating the outdated database that's no longer the truth of things. Replace that new truth so that it helps you to move even faster and further ahead. So when you combine those two sources, it's powerful. It is so, so powerful. So let me bring a picture up here of what we're doing, the mindset shift, right? There's a picture of the course here in front of us, and it's bringing that together with pieces of the puzzle, putting the pieces of the puzzle together by that mind shift. It's a HeartMind Connection, right? And we would like to have you to be a part of it. So you can text mindset to 888-527-7146, or you can actually go to the bit.ly/all uppercase mindset journey. And we're going to get this underway in 2021. So we can actually say, yep, 2020 is hindsight, 100%, right? So not being able to change what's behind you, but to take charge of what that is, quit feeding it fuel so it doesn't run on that habitual hamster wheel, so to speak, and move forward, right?
Right, and there's so many people right now that they have that want, that desire, and ultimately that need to be prepared for 2021, because to be able to know, we don't, no one knows, we don't even know what's going to come over the
We don't know what's going
election
to happen
at this
tomorrow.
point.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. But you can't focus on that. You need to focus on what it is inside of you, what it is you want to make out of your life,
Right.
and make the best effort at being able to get there. And, that's what we're here for, is to be able to help you to be able to do that. Not the outside aspects of what's going on, but for you, and
Right.
to get you to where you want to
Right.
be.
And it's a great opportunity to start to really discover who you are. Where am I going? Where have I been that I don't want to be again? It's kind of like that insanity thing, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over and over to do what? To try to get a different outcome? Well, the outcome's going to remain the same if you're doing the same steps. We go back to that system. It's like gears, and they all run, and one, makes the other one work, and and you get the same outcome. So like when you get in your car and you turn that key on, you put it in gear, you push that gas pedal, it's going to do the same thing every single time. So the only thing different when you're driving the car is you can turn it in whatever direction you want to go. So basically what we're going to do is help you steer yourself in the direction you want to go, instead of putting it in autopilot and letting it take you wherever it wants to take you, right? Because it's going to take you to where it's familiar and what it already knows. And then what? You're going to get the same thing you already got. So if you go to the same store, buy the same stuff every time, it's autopilot, right?
We're going to help you create your own personal GPS system to be able to get from where you are currently to where you want to be.
Right. And it's all about learning how to dream again, and when we look at the creativity, and science has proven this now, which is really kind of sad, they started testing children, in kindergarten, and where their creativity was, and it was up around 80 to 90% creativity. And then by the time they got into middle school, the creativity was down around 40%. And
Wow.
then, I know, and then when they got into the high school, senior year, it was down to like 14%. That it just floored me. I'm like, are you kidding me? But when you look at some of the things that have transpired throughout the years, where, again, it goes back, well, we don't have the money for the schools, and we don't have this, and we don't have that, whatever those excuses are, or they've taken the arts out of school. And that's where that creativity is. So it's learning how to bring that creativity back into the mind, to be able to focus on different things. What are your dreams? What is that destiny you're trying to get? What do you want out of life? Because now it seems like it's so far out of reach. It's like, I don't even know what it is anymore. How do I get there? Right? So we want to try to bring that all back into where we can start focusing and really teach you how to become creative again. It's still here. It's just suppressed, right? We have so much in our brains that we haven't even tapped into. What did they say? We use like 10% of our brain? That's not very much, right? And we keep having the same thoughts over and over. We have, I don't know how many thousands of thoughts every day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts every day. So recognize, what are your thoughts? What are those things that are flashing in? What are you fueling them with? Are you fueling them with a negative, feeling? Are you fueling them with a positive feeling? Because that's going to be an impact. So you've got to recognize where your thoughts are taking you, because that's what's putting you on the autopilot. So, I have a little rah-rah system is what I call it, and that's part of this whole mindset shift as well, is when you begin to recognize what your thoughts are. And it's like, wow, if I keep this same thought, I'm going to get that same outcome. It's like, okay, Houston, this is where it's going to be an opportunity to make that shift. And then you have to acknowledge that thought that you just had. You have to acknowledge that as your truth, because it's on autopilot. Everything on autopilot is what? It's your truth, it's your reality, it's what you know. And the subconscious is going to fight to the bitter end to prove that it is right. And it always wins out. So you have to acknowledge and tell that subconscious, yep, you're right. I acknowledge it. It's my truth. And that kind of drops the guard on the subconscious from wanting to push. It's that inner conflict, that sabotage that we talked about, right? So you want to remove that inner conflict. Then this is the way to do it, is to acknowledge what you're recognizing as something that is habitual that you want to change. Acknowledge it, that is your truth. Now you can surrender to the circumstance. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is actually winning the war. And why is that? When you can surrender to the circumstance, the conflict kind of like disintegrates.
It's gone.
Right? So when there's no conflict, there's no battle. When there's no battle, there's no war. When there's no war, there's only forward movement. No more sabotage. And yes, it is simple. Is it easy to do? Not always,
No.
because you really got to stay focused on these steps. And again, it's that system that works. And when you fully understand it in the degree, and that's what we do in this mindset shifting course by putting these pieces together, is to really help you to take the initiative, to take the steps necessary, and we walk you through them. And we actually do demos on that. You're going to experience it. You're not in this alone. We are here right beside you. And we know where you are. Why? Because we've been there ourselves. Right? And it's so much more fun when you can start getting out of it. And when that becomes your habit, and when you see the aha moments happening so quickly, it's almost like you're searching. Okay, where's another one of these things? Come on, Houston, I know it's in there. Where is it? Because you really want to make those transformations. And that's exactly what it is. It's not just a change, it's a transformation. Changes can always slide back. You make little steps and the change is happening and things are, being different and you're responding different. And then maybe some big thing happens and all of a sudden, whoop, you find yourself sliding right back to the beginning. And then now you got to start over. When you get the aha moments of transformation and something happens, you don't go sliding back down the hill because the transformation has stopped. There's no more fuel feeding that to make you slide down. And it's a place to be. It's really a comfortable place to be. It's not real comfortable at first, but the more you do it, the more you're going to want to do it. And we take you through these steps at your own pace. And we're not going to force you to do anything that you're not ready to do. But you're going to find, like these steps that you had mentioned, Patty, the A, B, C, D, E's, right? Is when you start with the most relevant one, the one that's the most important that needs to get done. By the time you get down to C, D and E are probably already taken care of, right?
For the most part, exactly so. But you got to take the time to do those, to start to figure out. And once you start doing the work, it becomes an automatic. It becomes that positive habit that we all want to have. And if you look at the most successful people in the world over history, I did a lot of research on this, and I found that they're the ones that have this system. And they follow this system and the routines to be able to get as much accomplished in a smaller amount of time. Right. Believe it or not, it is that way. No ands or buts. It is. Right. And most people don't believe that, but it's proven fact.
Yeah. And one of them, the delegating, the D, you know, and it's not about being bossy. It's not about you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do that and you got to do this, and you know, it's not about that. It's look at where your priorities are. Again, we go back to number one, right? But when you look at staying in your lane, what do you do best? What is your major asset? And then you find, you know, the pieces of the puzzle. Here we go back into those pieces of the puzzle to where it's like, okay, who out there can fill in this? Because it takes a team. It really takes a team. And when you look at the family members, you look at everybody in your house, you know, work together as a team to make this system work the best that it can. Oil these cogs, right, so that there's no squeaky wheels anymore, so that the system can work. And when you do that, it really, really makes a huge difference. So capitalize on everyone's asset. Don't play the role of the martyr, like, well, nobody can do it as good as I can, right? Because after you play that martyr role, you know, it gets tiring, right? Because it's like, oh, all this responsibility is on me, and I'm the only one that can do it, and nobody else can do it as good as I can. I'm the only one that's right. Then pretty soon we drop where? We drop into the victims, like, well, poor little me, right? Well, why is it that I have to do everything and nobody else wants to do anything? If you would just pick up the slack and if you would take responsibility, it's like, whoa.
Right.
you
But there you go. But we all have to realize every single one of us have our own strengths.
Yes,
we have our weaknesses, we have our opportunities, and we have our threats. And I do this with my clients because that gives you your toolbox. I help people to create their toolbox for success. And what I say when it comes to dreams, when we have those, when we have our weaknesses and that we have our threats that we're having a hard time negating them and balancing them out to get them into the toolbox. Those things I call, they go into the graveyard, because that's where dreams go to die. If you allow the threats that you're facing and your weaknesses, they're gonna sabotage.
And that's why that team is there to pick up that slack. So when you understand where, hey, you know what, this isn't my game here. You know, this just isn't a priority to me. I mean, it is a priority, but I don't know what to do with this. This isn't an asset. I want to flow over here with this is my asset, right? And so you pick a family member or a team member, right, to say, you know what, you do this so much better than I can do it. You do this so much better than anybody else in the household, right? Because we're talking about this, you know, unit that we have here that we've been kind of locked into, so to speak. So work together in unison. You know, and that's where it begins. It begins in the home, but it also begins in here. So when you understand those pieces of you in here, it's easier to put those pieces together out there. And always recognize the other person. You know, we need that recognition. We need that little power person. Whoa, you did great. Okay, what can we do now to make it even better tomorrow? Right? You know, so this show is all about being that best you that you can be, right? And you're looking at the goal achievement, right? So they both are looking for that outcome. How to become that best you that you can be. And how do you find that? You don't find it out there. You find it in here. So it all has to start inside. And by going through the mind shift and putting these pieces together again, we're going to make this journey very comfortable, a lot of fun, because we're not into, it's like, oh, hammer down, it's not like that. We have a lot of fun in what we're doing, and I'll tell you, some of the best laughs I've ever had in my life, and Patty, you can probably attest to this as well, is when you start really looking at the craziness that's gone on inside with your self-sabotaging and those old defunct belief systems that you've blown up because you've actually verbalized them, you've actually regurgitated them out loud to yourself, and you're like, exactly, what the heck was that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So make life fun, because you know, if you can't have fun in life, what can you have? Yeah, and it all starts here. It all starts here in the now. We can't change what's behind us. We can only change how we perceive and where we go forth from the moment and move into the future, right? Because if you don't want your future to look like your past, you got to change your now. So look at the things around you. What are the things that you can change? Where can you make that difference? And every person makes a difference. So find your assets, capitalize on them, and delegate those things that you don't do best to someone on your team, right? We need to connect as a unity, and that's one of the things I think with what's happened here in this 2020 separation, where we've been socially separated,
Right.
social distancing. It's like, what? You know?
Social segregation also,
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, well, if you're working on this and doing this, you do this here. If you're working on this and doing this, you do this here.
exactly.
And and that's what it's has done and become. And for education purposes, just look at the potential that there is if we could get everyone
Right.
into.
And let's start learning in a different way. The book learned, memorization type of things. I mean, it's really outdated, really, really outdated. And when you look at the kids coming into the world today and the knowledge that they're coming in with,
Oh,
but the technology, they're triggering different areas of their brains. Their neurotransmitters are functioning completely different because of the technology world, right? We can learn a lot from that. And it's not that we didn't have it. It doesn't in every generation. It's just that all of a sudden it's more relevant now because there's a knowingness with these children,
and technology in general.
it's insane. So let's meet them where they are, right? And really start to bring together. And it's about togetherness. It's not about separating. It's about coming together.
Right.
And that's where that virtual reality is. And this is kind of where we want to take our mindset, a course here, is into a platform where you can be immersed into. And we talk about mindset. The mind doesn't distinguish between what is and isn't on the platform, because just because it's an avatar doesn't mean it's not a real person. It's like what we're looking here, Zoom, you got your little square and I got my little square, right? Exactly. Well, when, our backgrounds are different. So when you come into the virtual reality platforms, what happens is everyone becomes immersed with or without the glasses into a room, shall we say, that it all looks the same. It's no different than when you just kind of walk and drive to your office, and everybody came in and everybody, greets the person at the phone. You all go back into your little cubicles. Everybody is in the same space. That's the same thing that happens in virtual reality, except that you don't have to leave your home. But the reality of it is there's no social distancing, because the mind says, oh, wow, there's somebody here. Hi, how are you today, right? So you're reconnecting in a level where it's a stress-free environment. And that's the difference. So that recreating that stress-free environment. And we have to recognize that, in the space that we have. And with 2020 just really taking all the predictability and all the comfort and everything that we knew and threw it right out the window, right? We need to get back into that, to where we are comfortable in the space that we're in and remove what's causing the stress. But we have to recognize where those stresses are, right? And stress is there, whether you want to believe it is or isn't. And we get so used to stress that it just becomes second nature, that we don't even define it as that. So working through the mind shift and putting these pieces back together will give you really an understanding of where it all begins with that stress, and how you can move away from and really take charge of your life and create that outcome that you're looking for through these different systems that we hope you incorporate into your daily activity. And it really is a simple process. And like we said, one step at a time, and we're right there. We're going to reach out to you, and all you got to do is reach back. So if that is something that interests you, go ahead and text and text to the the Mind Me, the 888-527-7146, or go to bit.ly/all uppercase mindset journey and get on that list, and we'll get you all the information, and we'll get you registered for this whole little program that will change your life and your destiny.
And we have it broken down for you when you go to that bit.ly link. You go there, and it has the 6 weeks broken up as far as what we cover in that 6 week time period. So that'll be helpful for you in trying to figure out, that this is because we know it is for you.
Right. And the nice thing about it, is you can take your family members right alongside of it with you. So it's not like you're in this alone, because it is a unit, right? With that, Patti,
yeah,
I think we're going to call this a show, right?
Wonderful. Yay.
Right? So it's time to do what? It's time to go out there and be that best you that you can be, because why? Patti and I are going to be the best we that we can be. And you know what? Make it the best day ever. And we'll see you at the Mindset Shift. And we'll see you in 2021. Bye for now.
Bye.